Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for what I think is going to be an informative and inspiring morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dolores Fabiano. I'm the Executive Director of the Ontario South Niagara Chambers of Commerce, and I'm pleased to be co-hosting this morning's event with our good friends at the Niagara USA Chamber. On September 28th of 2016, both of our organizations signed a historic memorandum of understanding for the benefit of chamber members on both sides of the border. The MOU was the first official step between our two chambers, and since then, we've collaborated on a number of common business goals and issues. We've also created an associate membership program whereby members who are in good standing with their home chamber can access an associate binational membership. For me personally, the opportunity to connect with my American colleagues and learn from them has been incredibly valuable. Again, thank you for joining us. And now I'm going to turn it over to my good colleague and friend, Corey Schuler, the Executive Director of the Niagara USA Chamber. Take it away, Corey.
Thank you, Dolores, and thank you everyone for being on this webinar today. The partnership Dolores references is important because it highlights the relationship that exists not only between our two organizations, but our two countries as well. As you know, we do not operate in a vacuum, and many of our border region issues all overlap each other. Probably the most current example is that of the trucker convoy we've seen over the last several days. We know that that's affected both sides of the border, and that's really kind of highlights really what border communities are like. By looking at issues through a broader lens, we were able to impact solutions that have a far greater reach. So we're not really doing things that affect one side or another, but by being able to be a binational group, we can put solutions together that really benefit both communities. I would like to now introduce the vice chairman of my board, as well as the owner of Momentum for Business Growth, Craig Turner.
Thanks, Corey. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. I get to be your MC today, and I'm very excited about it. We've been working on this concept for a while, since probably mid last year, to put it together, and we're able to recruit Bob to speak for us today, which kind of brought the whole thing together. I know a lot of you on the call wearing different hats. Corey mentioned I'm with the Niagara USA board. I'm on my small business Momentum, the business growth agency. I also run World Trade Center here in Buffalo, Niagara. So that's another place I know many of you. Thanks again for being here. We're looking forward to Bob's presentation and some networking today. This has been a challenge that we've tried to wrap our heads around, which is cross-border networking. And it was a challenge before. We're trying to do what side of the border you do an event on, trying to get people to cross the border to go to an evening cocktail party and things like that. It's always a challenge. And now, since the border became more elusive for crossing, it became even more difficult. So we said, let's just do it. Let's just put some people in a room, have some conversations around small business and 2022 in the future, and go from there. So what we're going to do, here's how we're going to lay this out. We're going to start out. Bob is going to run through his presentation, and I'll give an intro on Bob in a second. After Bob's presentation, we're going to break into 3 different breakout rooms, 3 series, 20 minutes each. And basically what we're going to do is using some of the information that Bob gives us, we're going to ask in the first session, how are you doing? Let's just have a conversation. And again, it's 20 minutes, so nobody's going to talk for 7 minutes about how they're doing, but quickly, how are you doing? Then everybody's going to come back, and we're going to redistribute everybody so that you get to meet everybody on the call, really. And the second group will be what's keeping you up at night. Then we'll bring everybody back, and then we'll redistribute again. And the third question is, the conversation is going to be what gets you out of the bed in the morning. Then we'll come back, we'll close up. This is networking. A lot of these meetings where you're having breakout groups and somebody will come back and report to we're not doing any of that. This is about meeting the people in your group, having some conversations. I encourage you, use it as networking. If someone says something interesting to you and you want to follow up with them, get them on the chat window on the side and say hi and exchange your contact information. Let's make sure we connect with people here. The ground rules for the breakout sessions, I'll just say them now so we don't have to do it again. Again, keep it short. It's 20 minutes. We're going to do intros, but we're going to do your name and company around the room and then start the conversation. And Dolores, Corey, and I will each facilitate those to kind of keep those conversations moving. Katie, who's doing a great job with managing all this, is going to keep the timer on us and keep the logistics all smooth. So we're excited about it and seeing how it goes. So with that, let me get to Bob. So Bob Lytle is the president of Related Related Analytics, related.to is their website. Bob is a friend and colleague. I've been working for Bob with many years. It's actually, I was thinking about Bob's an intro here, and it's actually kind of hard to give an intro on Bob because every single time I talk to him, he's got new data, new projects, and new clients that he's working with. That it blows my mind. I'm as excited about hearing Bob's presentation as you are, and I work with him almost every day. So. Bob, as a tech executive, he's a former CIO for Canada's TransUnion Credit Bureau. He calls himself a citizen data scientist, and really, I've been in this analytics world for a long time. Really works hard to create that real world application of the data analytics that he's doing. I know in 18-20 minutes of his presentation, he's not even going to be able to scratch the surface of all the cool things he's working on, but you're going to get some good stuff here. And with that, I want to turn it over to Bob.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it. Can everyone see my screen? I've got a couple of interactive things to show. Very little about me. Thank you. I'm always embarrassed when Craig says it. It gets more effusive every time you do this, and I'm shrinking. So I'm sitting in Chicago today as a Buffalo native, moved to Chicago, transferred to Burlington, started a company in St. Catharines, moved back to Buffalo, and then COVID sent us back to Chicago. So had some interesting experience, to say the least, in starting a company that is still Canadian, homed and owned. For the last 6 years, our company has benefited from a lot of your organizations. I can see some friendly faces here and folks who have helped us along on the journey. We've gotten a lot out of Canadian and local and municipal support and government for our company. What we do very quickly, so I can get to our discussion today on data for cross-border, we provide data for some of the biggest companies that do data in the industry. We do that right from St. Catharines. Our databases happen to be in Montreal, notwithstanding. So we work with Canadian banks, we work with US and Canadian government, some US Army contracts, which is a lot of fun to think of what they would do with business data. Most of our work is actually done through some of the named entities below. So when you get data from a Dun & Bradstreet or Deloitte in Canada, you're often getting data that is sourced in St. Catharines and Niagara and then delivered to them. We have experienced a lot of growth over the last 5 years when we decided 2 years ago to open up, with the help of some people on this call, our Buffalo office. We just opened a Rochester, New York office and doing some major research projects with them there. So, our goal is to be the biggest database in the world of businesses and to source it completely, publicly, ethically, in a way that people can use it at the right value, but specifically to bring analytics to bear. And a lot of our customers hire us to find information that they haven't been able to find through normal sources. I won't talk anymore about the stuff that we do, because I do want to get to some cross-border data that we've been hired to gather, and I want to share some of those with you guys. One of the things we do is our flagship program, built with a bunch of folks, including interns from Brock University and Niagara College, is the Diligence platform that customers use to dig into individual companies worldwide. All right, enough about that. So what Craig and Dolores asked me to do is kind of think about this from the aspect of how could a business use data cross-border in order to build success. We've been doing a lot lately with export, and wanted to talk to you a little about that. I know a lot of us on this call are in the public sphere, in the support sphere, and then we have business owners directly. I see some of my great logistics friends on both sides of the border on the call today. So 5 items to share with you to maybe entice you to think about what's available to use for your own business or to help those around you understand what can be done. Everything I'm going to show you today was sourced 100% from public source information. That doesn't mean that it doesn't cost anything. It always costs something to do work in data, but all of this data is downloadable from the internet. So this first one is a picture of the import-export picture of a particular subsector. I think these are all West No, I guess some of these are in Toronto, but different farms in what they import. You can see here machinery, tanks, drums, I think down somewhere, canopy growth, cream separators, olive oil. These are imports that are tracked regularly and delivered by the Canadian government that anybody can source and ask the question, who's bringing what into their shop to then presumably manufacture and then ship back out. We do this kind of work for EDC. We're doing a bunch of work with a program called the Trade Accelerator Program. Craig's involved in some of those, Toronto Board of Trade. The city of Calgary uses our data to help their own Calgary companies figure out how to export primarily into the United States. And this sort of data is what I want to help you think about. It's not just about phone numbers. Right, those are interesting. How do I call somebody or get in contact? What we really want to know is who's importing this sort of product, what are they doing with it, and how are they getting that back across the border? And this data is out there and it's exciting. So, you know, the thing I would suggest you think about is the import-export supply chain network is the number one thing everyone talks about, the current state of economic affairs. Data is available to help companies and help businesses, to help governments succeed in fostering better export. US and Canada are number one trading partners with each other most years and in most products. There can be more, notwithstanding bridges being shut down or anything else, there can be more done in this particular space. The second thing I want you to think about, and this was a project that we did on spec for a Canadian federal government agency around understanding the cannabis environment. The United States is really starting to open in this space. And it's a hot button topic. I certainly weighed in publicly on one side of the issue back then, but the fact is it's a business. Understanding how you sell in the Canadian market and how that applies to the US market, I think is really important. Because there are opportunities for both Canadian and US companies to sell cross-border regardless of the product itself. There's a whole ancillary network of products and solutions that support this cross-border. So what we found when we were commissioned to do this work is, you know, everyone thinks about the 200 or 300 licensed growers and opinions on those and whether I want the greenhouse in my area or not, right? But the fact is the entire cannabis market in Canada numbers over 5,000 companies. When you think deeper than just who makes the product, you think about all the other things that go along to support the product, call it the ecosystem. We think about the producers in the upper left-hand corner, and to some extent, transport, right? We think sometimes about health, right? Clinics and pharmacies. The regulatory framework in the United States is different, but highly supportive of the kinds of things that Canadian businesses have been doing for several years, right? Who could your next market be? It could be somebody, a doctor or a wellness clinic south of the border. That's an interesting thing for a business to think about. From a retail perspective or an industrial secondary support perspective, what we find is a huge growth in companies to support this industry. So whenever I think of whether it's a farmer or a product producer thinking of where do I normally sell, I'm going to sell to wholesale or something else, there's a wide variety of options to have ancillary markets for yourself. So one of the things we were asked to do by a US government agency, I'm going to show you the information. It's interesting. The reason they asked us to look at this was maybe a little bit more for regulatory or fraud reasons. But the concept is in business engaged in a certain sort of business might have licenses and then may have a series of ancillary companies surrounding that business that maybe don't have licenses, but are in the business. So in this case, this is Oregon, I think. We have 2 licensed entities to produce products in cannabis. I have a cluster of 25 companies that are related to these 2 that are not licensed, but are definitely in the business. And you can obviously see, here's the lawyer who registered them all. Who knows, maybe it's the business owner. But think about all the other, you know, We Canna Manage, right? CBD Connection. Those ones might be easy to guess, but think about the properties. Think about all the other things that might go along with that particular product. So item number 2 for you to think about when you're looking at data and looking at a market, it's not just the primary product, but it's all the other products that surround here. It was a different question for this US agency of whether or not some of these other businesses should be licensed. Set that aside. As a business owner in this market, I might wish to broaden my contact to way more than just the known producer. And I guess that's kind of the point I wanted. So how many times are we going to talk about this, right? So I don't want to spend a lot of time on COVID. One of the great contracts we got, again, sourced from Canada and St. Catharines, is we report weekly on every COVID case to a series of business entities down in the United States who build models to try to predict what's happening with the Canadian market. As an outgrowth of that, one of the research firms that we work for, IDC, asked us to paint a picture of the potential impact of COVID. This was done actually in May 2020, to be able to predict which markets were going to drop in IT spend and which ones were going to grow in IT spend. And this dashboard was then given to their customers. The concept I want you to think about here is every one of the business industries is going to have some impact from COVID. We can think of the ones that we might theorize are winners, if you want to think of it that way, growth sectors, maybe some manufacturing, certainly healthcare. We might think retail, same thing. We might think, declining sectors, maybe tourism, maybe some of the other ones are very sensitive to us. Every industry has a connectivity to something else. And this tool allowed us to give the customers the ability to say, show me in process manufacturing in Edmonton, which businesses might be on a declining set or on a rising set. Of course, they wanted to sell them laptops or whatever things they wanted to do. But the concept is every piece of data in every business industry is interrelated to something else. So no matter what sector you're opening a file on or what sector your business is in, those ancillary businesses in your network are the ones that are likely to give the edge to a business, growth or shrinkage. So I want to finish with just two here, and I know I'm going fast here, but I think the job that Craig asked me to do is entice us, get us to think, get us to start wondering about things. One of the things that are most common for us is to find what is called alternative data, interesting facts. Most of you, if you're in public policy or if you've done business, you've bought a file from Dun & Bradstreet or something. Give me a list of businesses. We maintain our lists, right? The question is, what information helps me sell or helps me understand the market? We found early on that monitoring and measuring construction permits is a great way to predict the growth or shrinkage, not only of a local economy, but of specific businesses. In Ontario, some construction permits, like for this particular Ontario company, are actually public record. We index those permits and then can tell you year over year which construction businesses are growing and shrinking. That might be highly interesting for somebody in the logistics space to understand who they should be partnering up with or where their risk in their current customer base is. On kind of the silly side, Vancouver licenses dog walkers. Who would have thought? Right? But when you think about it, it's a public record. I'm a licensed person providing a service. What kind of products might I sell to those licensed dog walkers who could sell to their own customers? Is this my next channel? Could these people be selling custom boutique dog treats to the owners they walk for and maybe making 10 or 15 points on it? Those are business thoughts, right? That new data can go. And this is downloadable from the Vancouver City website. Something I think we all know, we see Dine Safe in Toronto and in Niagara. Same thing is available on the US side. Inspections and fines, not as indicators of where not to eat, right? I mean, that's interesting maybe on a public side, but how about a company selling cleaning products? How about understanding the businesses that have actually gone through maybe a regulatory hit and need better legal service? Those are the kind of things that you can think about and build products around, and the folks you help and support can build products around. That interesting angle can translate into a curious data point. Lest you think it's all about Canada, Buffalo has the exact same thing. Let's see if I can pop this guy open. And what's neat about the city of Buffalo is all of the permits are given along with the location, the type of permits for construction, and who to contact. So now think about it, you may feel great or not about that if you're remodeling your own home, but for me as somebody providing construction service or ancillary services, to understand that at this particular address, there was 2 permits pulled. This particular address has, hold on, I'm going to stop clicking here for a second. 5 electrical permits pulled on such and such a date, and I can actually see the value of the permit and the applicant and the company who is doing the actual contracting work. Frankly, it's a gold mine if you're into lead gen and you're trying to sell into this. I'm working with a roofing company in Rochester, selling into the Buffalo market, and they are now 3 to 5 months ahead of their competition in understanding when somebody's going to need their roof redone, because they're seeing the permits the day they're pulled. So that kind of stuff is just called like guerrilla marketing, if you will. This is the sort of information that's available, and it's ready for the taking for somebody to jump into and make a business out of. If you're in public policy and you're in any way involved in open data or encouraging that, companies like ours love what you do, because the information you're giving out for the public good has both public interest information, but it also has commercial value that builds businesses. There's a separate link here about the state of New York, and you can see every food inspection in the same way as you do in Toronto. What that really opens up for a cross-border company is the idea that I built a business strategy and an engine in Canada, and I can translate that almost exactly into the US. I will say that because frankly, that's how we built our business. We started in St. Catharines, and now we've opened up in 2 other cities using basically a cookbook because the data was very similar. And for us as a data company, similar data means similar strategy. Okay, so I'm going to kick us into the last discussion to maybe think about challenging some trends or some thinking with this. Hidden opportunities exist, and leverage for business is all about finding something that somebody else isn't thinking about. So one of the things Niagara Region asked us to do was paint a picture of Niagara agriculture a few years ago. We added on to it the United States agriculture. And you can kind of see here, the preponderance of this stuff is sitting in Ontario, and there's certainly a bunch here, but remember back to cannabis, it's not just about the primary producer, it's about the secondaries. And this is what I wanted to show you just in a quick live demonstration. We love playing with data. Craig laughs at us, but this is what we do every day, is sit down and ask, okay, tell me, what is that farm? Who is this? What is this shop? What are they doing and involved in? So if you look at the entire ecosystem of agribusiness, right? Watch down here on the right-hand side. 66% in Ontario, 34% in New York, of course, right? Let's go to ag, and you can see it, right? Just this massive set, 80-20 up in the Ontario area, right? It makes sense, right? This is not about who's got more, right? This actually was used when people were arguing about dairy price supports. Remember that a few years ago? Everybody's on which side of the border and everything else. Digging down into it a little bit deeper, you ask the question, well, wait a minute, what about things like cooperating between wineries? What about, so let's see here, if I go to manufacturing, there we go. Just a few wineries in the Lockport area, right? A preponderance of them over here. The cooperative cross-border strategy is to collaborate, especially nowadays. I can get a bottle over the border maybe quicker than I can get humans over the border. So if my agritourism is there, why don't I bring my product down to where somebody's actually visiting and wishing they could get to that Ontario thing, right? Those clever thinking aspects of doing work on both sides of the border, again, enabled by nothing but public data that helps you understand where those businesses are. One thing I did want to show you just in closing on this, thought it was very interesting, looking at wholesale, a lot closer in percentage than you would think. So if 80% of the farms are in Ontario, but 45% of the food wholesalers are in Buffalo, where should my farm be thinking about selling? I would say, frankly, we're growing in exports from Ontario to the States, but not nearly as much as it could be. And folks like Kevin and Jim on the call would tell you, that cross-border traffic of product and produce is something that Buffalo desperately needs, especially in a supply chain difficult time. So knowing that almost half of the food wholesalers sit in that Buffalo area as a gateway should be enough interest for the ag sector in Ontario to figure out where else is the product, where else can my product be sold. And there are actually whole, procedures and public policy arms with the goal to do nothing but help ag businesses sell south of the border. Craig and I are working on the current TAP product for Ontario, where it's all agribusiness. And all they're looking to do is figure out, how do I sell into the States? So the challenge and the assumption, right, is that yes, we have a lot of farming in one place, but I've got a lot of need in another place. And how do I marry that up? Data can help paint that picture for you. So just to close it out here, I mean, these are little vignettes. These are things that we've seen, things that we get involved in every day. But to wrap it up, those 5 points: find a network in the data. Who is connected to whom, right? Because that's going to help you increase your own sales and your own commercial prospect. Unique geographic conditions. Think back to Oregon and the kinds of businesses that grew up there that are different in the cannabis sector than what we might have in Canada. And how do you tune what you're doing there? Thinking about the future, COVID has changed the way we work. You see me in my basement with my Pilfered Niagara street sign. You don't need to know where that came from. You know, that's where I work now. And I tell it into all my workers in Ontario. Okay, so what does that mean? And how could you sell me? How could I sell differently? Common data strategies cross-border, super important. My own small piece of the world has benefited from trying something in Canada and then rolling the same thing out in Buffalo and actually seeing it work. It's been pretty cool. And then that fresh perspective. Data can tell a story that maybe challenges us a little bit, but thinks about things differently. If you're in business, that lever point of having a unique piece of data that makes you think differently than your competition, frankly, that's the way you build a winning strategy. So, Craig, I hope this kind of hit where we were trying to get with this kind of stuff. I would love to talk with any one of you if you have questions, either on the commercial side or on the public policy side, what we're seeing. Certainly, we've worked with a lot of your businesses and a lot of your departments in the past, and we'd love to continue doing so. So with that, Dolores, Craig, thanks for inviting me today. I really appreciate the chance to talk to the group.
And Bob, thank you. And I, whenever Bob says my goal today is to make you think, I always have my pen ready. So I can't speak for everybody else, but I came up with a marketing idea and a book idea on my notes here. So I'm very excited about a couple of things coming off this call. So, but Bob, thank you very much. And Bob's got to run, but we can. You said you might try and call in. Yes. But anybody who wants to talk to Bob, we can make his contact information available. And we appreciate you taking some time and putting that together for us. Let me just real quick before Katie sends us into our breakout rooms, Dolores, Corey, have anything to add following up to Bob's presentation?
No, I told you it was going to be informative and insightful, and it was. So did not lie.
I want to know what your book topic will be.
We'll talk later.
It's actually nonfiction, to tell you the truth. So I'm actually excited about it.